Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Diablo 4. I loved playing Diablo 3 when that first came out, but that was a long time ago. Maybe the series has changed a little bit, maybe I have changed a little bit, but nevertheless I was excited to finally pick up Diablo 4 and give it a shot. If you're not familiar with the Diablo series, it is a very grim world. Basically, angels, heaven, and hell, the demons, are stuck in this eternal conflict, and humans are kind of stuck in the middle of it all. You will mostly be facing off against the demon side of things, especially in this game. You don't really combat against the angels like you did in Diablo 3. But tonally, this world is very bleak. It's kind of like a high fantasy setting here, very apocalyptic. There's demons, cultists, there's witches, there's evil things in the swamp, right? Everything outside of the villages and the towns want to kill you. You're going to be hanging around a lot of peasants when you are hanging around things that don't want to kill you. It is very gory and bloody, especially like the cinematics here. So this game is certainly not for the faint of heart, and it's kind of more geared towards a mature audience. If this is your first entry into the Diablo series, I would recommend watching just like a quick synopsis of the lore of Diablo and exactly what's going on here, who the characters are, because most of the game revolves around the character that you're playing as, hunting down the demon named Lilith, and I feel like it'd be in your best interest to at least understand Lilith's backstory. Essentially, the demon Lilith and then this angel guy, they're the ones who created the humans that inhabit the earth, but then they had their own feuds, and it's a whole long thing. But it would be in your best interest to learn about Lilith because, yeah, you're just hunting her down, you're trying to put a stop to her. She's got her own goals and ambitions, and essentially for some reason you were force-fed some of her blood petals. Still not entirely sure what blood petals are. I guess I should have done a little more research before I did this review. And now you can share some kind of connection, some kind of bond with her, and so you are seeing all these visions about her actions while you're trying to hunt her down. The game consists of 6 acts, and the first 3 acts are able to be done in any order. You can choose what task you do first. The 4th act is very, very short, and then the 5th and the 6th acts are fairly linear with some choices as well. Granted, you are playing in essentially like a big open world game, and so if you have no interest in doing the main story and just leveling up and collecting that sweet loot, then you are absolutely free to do so. This game does scale with your level, and I actually didn't like this very much because it felt like whatever level I was, everything around me would automatically scale up to that level. Even previous areas that I had already explored, even quests that I've already accepted to do, they would automatically scale up anytime I leveled up. And on the surface, I can see both sides of the coins here, because if all the enemies are scaled up to your level, then you always have some kind of challenge. Nothing is a cakewalk. The experience that you receive is meaningful. The gear that you receive is meaningful. But on the other side of the coin, it's actually not that meaningful, because if everything automatically scales up to whatever level you are, then whatever level you are does not matter at all. In reality, you could play this whole game without fighting a single side character and just focus straight on the main story, and none of the combat would matter. The experience wouldn't matter, the loot doesn't matter. It just feels like no matter what you do, you're always going to be at the same level against the enemy. And so that means everything just feels so inconsequential. It doesn't feel like it matters when I level up or get this sweet rare gear, because it always feels like I'm never doing like extra damage against the enemies no matter what I do. I started feeling like, why am I doing these side quests? Why am I exploring these extra dungeons for loot when in reality, it really doesn't make me feel any more powerful than if I hadn't gained that extra experience or when I hadn't gotten that extra loot. And so at the beginning of the game, like during the first 3 acts, I was doing all the side quests. Anytime I'd encounter a new dungeon, I'd go and explore it, and I'd get the gear, and I'd feel happy, you know, because I'm leveling leveling up, and every time you level up, the skill tree is pretty interesting because it will unlock new skills for you up to a certain level. You can unlock like new abilities, and basically you have the choice between all these different abilities. And at the beginning of the game, this is exciting. I'd say from levels 1 to 30, leveling up is exciting because you're unlocking new possibilities on the skill tree, new abilities. But once you reach that point where you've gotten to the bottom of the skill tree, then levels start feeling inconsequential because you're not unlocking anything new. You're just upgrading the current abilities and skills that you already have. And so it's at that point when it feels like the enemies are just scaling up with me. I'm never getting more powerful than my enemies because the enemies just always scale up to where I'm at. It is nice knowing that you don't have to grind at all in this game, but you can if you want for some reason. If you just love playing this game, then there's a ton of content for you to play here. There's a lot of side quests, there's a lot of dungeons to be explored, but it is nice knowing that you don't have to do that and still have a challenge to a certain level. But I just feel like there's a good way to balance this. Maybe if enemies in certain sections of the map scaled up to a certain point, so you do eventually start feeling way more powerful than them. But that's kind of like one of the exciting things about playing an RPG is that you start getting that feeling of being way stronger than your enemies or enemies that you played against in the past. You know, when you're playing Pokemon, it is kind of satisfying to go back to previous areas and face off against trainers who are way lower level than you because you can actually see that growth happening. You can see, when I played Xenoblade Chronicles, you can see, these enemies in this part of the world were giving me problems in the past, but now that I'm such a higher level and I have such better gear, now I can really go back and kick their butts. Compared to this game, if you go back to the very first place that you started at when you played this game, the enemies are still going to give you the same amount of challenge. And it gets even worse when you pass level 50, because by the end of the game, I think I was maybe level 55, 56, and once you pass level 50, then you don't have access to your regular skill tree anymore. Well, you do, but what I mean is you don't get any additional points to put in that normal skill tree. Then you start putting points in a Paragon skill tree, and these are more boring than the skill points that you can get in the regular skill tree, where it just gives you things like extra intelligence, extra spirit, sometimes extra damage, but it's not exciting like new abilities that you're unlocking necessarily. I will admit, the gear is always fun to find. It's always fun to be a boss and find the rare gear, right? This gear is color-coded to determine the amount of rarity that it is. I did play a lot of Diablo 3, and the orange color rarity would hardly ever show up. At least from what I can remember, usually you would be getting blue and yellow colored rarity in Diablo 3. In this game, I got a ton of orange colored rarity gear, which was exciting at first, but then after a while, it kind of made orange colored gear less special in a way. Still cool though, and I still like how when you like get a new piece of gear, then it makes your character look different. I always love when my equipment changes my appearance of my character. And the cool thing about this game is if you ever do have like a favorite helmet or a favorite torso gear, then you can always go back and like equip your character with that appearance. Now, did I ever use that feature? No, I to be honest, I didn't. But I liked knowing that I had that option. In reality, a lot of this gear has just like paragraphs of stats and things that it can do to your abilities, and it's just like so much. It kind of became a TLDR, too long didn't read, where basically whenever I picked up a new piece of gear, I would look at its item level, and if it had a higher item level than the item that I already had, then I would equip it. If it didn't, then I would go to the blacksmith and salvage it for materials. That's another thing. In Diablo 3, you can salvage the gear that you pick up and craft new gear. In this game, that was not available until near the end of the game, because I started this game around the end of Season 3. This game is broken up by seasons. If you've ever played a live service game before, usually how these games tend to make their money is they have these seasons that unlock rewards basically by playing the game, and there are like the free season pass thing, so you can get a couple free rewards by playing through the season, and then they have like a paid season pass thing, so if you pay money, then you'll unlock better things as you are playing through the game. So I played near the end of Season 3, and right near the end of the game, they released the new season, Season 4, and in this, I was kind of reading the things that they added in Season 4, and I guess they added crafting. I did not play around at all with this. I don't know if it's similar to how it was in Diablo 3, but when I was playing the game in Season 3, crafting was definitely a missed feature. There's also like gems that you can craft and slot in your gear to add additional bonuses. You can upgrade your current gear up to a certain level, but I always felt like they throw so much gear at you. Even if you upgrade the current gear that you have, you're probably going to end up replacing it within the next couple levels, and so it really wasn't worth it. I feel like the upgrading the gear and making the perfect gems are really like end game level stuff, like when you're level 100 and you're just looking for anything that could possibly boost up the strength of your character. But when you're just playing through the campaign normally, this stuff all felt inconsequential. Like it really didn't matter. I felt like I was doing the same amount of damage to these enemies no matter what level I was or how good my gear was. This game was made first and foremost for a PC, which is totally fine. That's how Diablo has always been, and if I wasn't such a handheld gamer, then I probably would be playing on the PC as well. I've started to migrate over to consoles, just because my PC is getting old at this point, and I just got sick of dealing with all the tweaking that PC gaming tends to require. And so I did get this game on the PlayStation 5, and some of the navigation can be kind of clunky in terms of like what kind of button combinations you need to do. Usually it was okay during like main combat, but in terms of like aiming, I'm not aiming with a mouse, I'm just facing the general direction and attacking and hoping my character knows to use the spell on the certain enemy that I want to use the spell on. Certain things like doing emotes, so you can do little waves or cheers and things like that. The shortcuts for that was kind of clunky. And the text. Now, this may be an old guy complaint, but the text was very, very small. The subtitles, the text for trying to read what the gear level was, it was also small. So I was playing this on the PlayStation 5 on like a 50-inch screen TV, and I was maybe 15, 20 feet away from the TV. And yes, I am blind, but I am wearing my glasses when I'm playing this game, and I still like that I can't read the text unless I scooch up closer to the TV. And I even went into the settings and I made the text bigger, and it's like I really feel like this game was made for having a monitor 2 feet away from your face so you can read all that text. And I just wish that they had made the text in the console a lot bigger for people like me who are blind. This game really wants you to play with other characters. It demands that you are online 100% of the time when you are playing this game. And when gamers complain about this, your main instinct might be to kind of roll your eyes like, oh no, you have to be online all the time when you're home anyway with your Wi-Fi. But it really provides an inconvenience that I'm not used to yet whenever I'm playing like a single player game, because for one, whenever I play a game like on the Switch or the PlayStation 5, when I'm ready for a break, I just put the console to sleep, and then I'm used to being able to go to those consoles, wake the console up, and I'm right there where I was. But in this game, because you have to be online 100% of the time, whenever I put my PlayStation 5 to sleep and I go back to play it again, then I have to re-sign in, and then I have to re-see the message saying, hey, you should really sign up for PSN, it's only this much a month, and then I have to sign into my character, and then I have to wait in the servers for it to log me in, and then I have to get, like an advertisement, oh, these are the new patches, and it's this whole thing. And granted, it is only like probably an additional minute just to get back to where I was, but it's still annoying. And it's not it doesn't pop me right back to where I was even. So if I'm playing into the campaign, it'll probably shoot me back to a checkpoint that I was at before. Not being able to pause is also a really, really frustrating thing for me. The fact that I can't just pause the game to go to the bathroom or kill a bug for my wife, right? It's so annoying that I'm probably going to be okay and not in danger, but the fact that like I just can't pause, it annoys me so much. I should be able to pause my single player game if I'm treating it like one. And all of this is a shame because the gameplay, I feel, really lends itself to short 30-minute gameplay bursts. The game, I think of this game similar to how I may think of the Dynasty Warrior game, in a sense where you're like a super strong character and you're just mowing down hordes of enemies. It can be really fun in short bursts, but this isn't the type of game that I liked to play for more than a couple hours at a time because it would start becoming quite repetitive and boring. Now, maybe I chose the wrong class, because when you create your character, you can choose their appearance and you can choose what kind of class they are. This is like, this determines what kind of abilities they have. And so I chose the Necromancer because I really like the idea of having all these undead minions fight with me. That's not to say that I was just standing on the side and letting my undead minions do all the combat, because you're still having to use abilities and heal up your undead minions and resummon them when they die. There's also like a bunch of different options for classes. So if you want to play Necromancer, but you didn't want to just play with an undead army, there's a bunch of like options that you can do to tweak them. And I assume that it's the same for all the other classes as well. Like there's multiple plays of playing the Barbarian, for instance. But maybe because of the way that I created my character, having this undead army, the combat did start feeling repetitive, especially when I was playing more than about half an hour. It just got so samey. I think another thing that really pushed this idea of monotony in my mind is the colors and the world here, because it's very brown and black and gray tonally, and I get that that's what like Diablo is kind of going for, is this bleak, grim world that you're playing through, but visually it all just started to look pretty similar. Now, you do go to different environments, to be fair. You do go to the swamp and to underground caves. But in terms of like, mixing it up a little bit, spicing it up, I felt like there wasn't like too much variety in order to keep me engaged for longer than quick bursts. And maybe that'd be different if I played a different class, but the combat really did just start feeling repetitive, the same way a game like Dynasty Warriors might start feeling repetitive after playing it for too long. I do like that the world is like one cohesive continent in Diablo 4 compared to Diablo 3, where every time you go to a new act in Diablo 3, it's like you're going to a new land and there's not really like any way to backtrack to where you were before. I like in this game where if you open your map, you're just on this tiny blip on the continent, and as you explore, your map gets more and more filled out and you can see how all these pieces are intertwined and connected to each other. You do unlock waypoints and you can automatically teleport to these waypoints, so it's not like you have to walk the whole way. But if you are exploring like a new area that doesn't have a waypoint that you've unlocked yet, yeah, you are pretty much hoofing it the whole way. At the very beginning of the game, they tease you with mounts, and I believe mounts are new to Diablo 4. I don't remember them being in Diablo 3, but the idea that you can ride these horses to quickly get around to where you need to go was very appealing. And if you bought a new version of Diablo 4, at least for the PlayStation 5, you can enter in this code and get like a special horse with special horse armor, and they taunt you with this at the very beginning. You meet the stable guy and it gives you a message like, oh, you need to do this side quest before you can unlock mounts. What they don't tell you is you don't unlock mounts until fairly on in the game. I think it's Act 4, and Act 4 is probably 60 maybe even 70% into the game. But I will say, once you finally do unlock that mount, it is so quick getting around, and when you get to the point that I was at, where I just wanted to do the main quest and I didn't want to worry about all this side content, just riding your mount straight to your next destination was a very nice means of travel. I also like that they give your character more of a presence in this game compared to Diablo 3, where Diablo 3 you were kind of playing the stereotypical silent protagonist, whereas in this game your character shows up in all the cinematics. Your character has a voice. Your character talks to the main characters rather than just text. Your character is voice acted, and so it feels like your character actually has like a more meaningful presence and impact in the story. Like, I feel like the other characters acknowledge your character more, and you can actually hear the conversations between them. It took me probably, if I was to guess, about 25 hours to beat this game. Like I mentioned earlier, I did all the side content that I possibly could until I realized that it all felt meaningless and went for the main story. So potentially this could be a lot quicker for you, or it could be a lot longer for you, depending on like how much you want to invest in the gameplay here. After you roll the credits and after you do the post-credit scenes, there is a ton left for you to do. If you want to treat this game more like some kind of MMO, you know, you got your world events where you fight bosses, and if you're connected to online, then you can party up with other characters and take these guys down. Obviously, you can keep leveling up your character. There's achievements that you can go for. There's these seasons. There's also like bounties that are scattered throughout the world that you can hunt down if you're really invested in your character and want to make your character as strong as they possibly can be. There's a lot of options here, but I could see the writing on the walls that this game was going to become quite the grind when you don't have a main campaign to play through. So be forewarned that if you want to do the like end game stuff here, you are in for quite the time investment. Not me though. I've had my fill of Diablo 4, and maybe in the future I'd be interested in playing a different class, but I'm ready to move on to a different genre. Overall, I think I'm going to give this game a 3 out of 5. I was mixed on this, but when I was just thinking about my overall experience playing this game, some of it was quite monotonous and repetitive. Act 6 was really exciting and really fun, and I was invested during Act 6, but, you know, for the bulk of the game, if you're playing more than half an hour, it just kind of starts feeling samey. So it's fun, it's good, I just have mixed opinions about it. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Diablo 4, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!